What up, fam? Hit that like, hit that subscribe. This is A2D Wednesday nights, and the Phillies are red hot, even with a loss today. We're going to talk about it. Let's go.
I mean, how silly is that? Man, we're talking about practice.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you. Let the celebration begin.
Welcome in, everybody. This is A2D Wednesday nights only on A2D Radio. Every Wednesday, we are brought to you by Baggio's Bread. New location, Mount Laurel, New Jersey, about to open up any day now. Go check them out when they do open up. Use promo code A2D. Get 10% off your order. As always, Mike Mataraki, Luke Brown, Greg Milakovic. I'm Tom Arnone. Everybody out there, welcome in. We got a lot to go over. Daryl Morey, end the season press conference was the other day. We'll dive into it. We'll dive into Daryl talk and the Sixers direction because it is a blank canvas, like we talked about on Sunday, Greg. So we'll dive into the Sixers later on in the show. Do we have concerns with Aaron Nola? And the Phillies winning streak comes to an end today. Time to start a new one, but everything ties right into our poll question. We're going to do this tonight. After his last two starts, you are starting to get worried about Aaron Nola. Do you agree or disagree? Let us know. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, that's where we're live. And everywhere you get your podcasts, we're there as well. Hit the like, subscribe, follow. Most importantly, join the conversation tonight. I disagree. I'm not worried about Aaron Nola one bit. And if people want to get on their damn soapbox and get worried about Aaron Nola, be my guest. Because he's an innings eater. He's going to do it all year. He's going to have his starts where he gets hit around, and he's going to have a stretch where he's money. That's Aaron Nola, right? We have a body of work here. When we talk about, you can take your analytics and you take everything else and you can shove it up you know what when it comes to this, because we have a long body of work. And when you have that, there's trends to it. And his trend is, listen, he's going to have those moments, but he's going to have moments where, he's a top 5 Cy Young candidate too, because he's that on and he's that electric and he's that pinpoint with his stuff. And if you go over his last 5, he's 2-1 with a 3.27. I mean, it's not like it's terrible. I know his last 2 starts haven't been ideal. He goes 4 against the Giants, gives up 2 earned runs, and obviously today, he goes 5 2/3, gives up 4 earned runs, 9 hits, which you don't like to see. And his last start before that, he gave up 4 walks in those 4 innings. Not ideal, and that just tells you he's not locating. And that always comes and goes with him. And that's for his entire track record here with the Phillies, his entire career.
So I don't want to make an excuse for him for that game against the Giants, but he got the early hook. The Giants starter got the early hook. And if you're a big believer in the website Umpire Auditor had that game ranked as the 3rd worst game of the season by the home plate umpire. So both pitchers were just getting squeezed ridiculously that day. And Nola, I mean, he had that one bad inning. I think, realistically, Topper was worried about his pitch count. I think Nola could have gotten through 5 and gotten a win in that game. So to your question, Tom, no, absolutely not. I mean, everything you said, spot on, body of work, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody knows that Nola does not pitch well during day games. He's a night game pitcher. And he has stretches like this, especially, April and May, where, 2 good starts, a shaky start, 2 good starts, a shaky start. He'll find it.
Yeah, it's who he is. It's who he is. Yeah. It's not making an excuse either. Like, it's who he is. It's who he is. And you're paying him that money because of the body of work, and you're paying him that money because not many guys are going to go 200 innings year in, year out. Not many guys in baseball do that. So you're paying for the durability. That's what you're paying for, because the worst thing for baseball teams at the big league level is losing starting pitching. Because if it grew on trees, it'd be easy to replace. And going down into AAA, you know how that goes for most teams. And when you go down there, or have to go down there too much, right? Now you're starting to talk about 4 or 5 inning starts and your bullpen getting taxed, all the things you don't want. So, yeah, we agree. Or disagree. Sorry, we disagree.
Yeah, I'll jump on the disagree train as well. I actually look at today's start as, although he was kind of shaky especially early on. He did settle down a little bit before he got touched up in that 6th inning. But I look at it today as he didn't give up a home run, right? Aaron Nola loves to give up home runs. And especially you look at this, Blue Jays lineup, with Vlad, Springer, Bichette, Turner, all guys that can drive the baseball. I look at today, and now I'm saying it was a great start, but I look at it, I go, hey, at least he didn't give up the big home run, right? He gave up a bunch of hits, sure, but he didn't give up the big home run. We still ended up having a chance to win the game. He had guys tying runs on base and winning run to plate, so we had our opportunities. But yeah, I mean, he's pitched enough big games and a lot of innings this year. Like you guys said, he's going to go through that. He does this every year. So yeah, I'm not concerned.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree too. I'm going to take it a step further. I'm a big trend guy, and he's been on the team since 2015. He's 5-3 in the playoffs. And the trend with him always is that people are going to get on him now, probably in July, maybe getting even deeper in the season. And then if you do a season in review, it kind of seems like outside of this offseason where they had to pay him, no one gets on Aaron Nola. And the other thing I found kind of funny, and not that the bats were horrific today, but it's like, 11 straight home. Yeah, I know. But it's hard to get on him when you win 11 straight home games.
Yes.
The bats are on fire. Here it goes. And, classic. Here comes Aaron Nola. Where's the run support? It's just classic Aaron Nola stuff. So to be concerned, absolutely not. Especially with Dynasty's comment. I mean, if he's a 3, I'm sure every team in baseball would take Aaron Nola as a 3.
Spot on, Luke.
So I'm definitely gonna disagree, especially when the rest of your staff is producing at a much higher level than a fan would expect. So absolute disagree.
Yeah, like the thing is, you're spot on. He has pitched really well in the postseason. I mean, we can go off of his last start and not be, and go off of that and say, well, he got lit up. Yeah. But the last 2 postseasons, he's been money. He's absolutely been a big game pitcher for us, and he's been a big game pitcher down the stretch to help us get into the postseason both years. So that matters. That matters. This is a marathon. We know it. Sure as hell ain't a sprint. So you need guys to be healthy, and you need guys that eat up innings. And then he's going to have his stretches like we talked about, where he has those 5-game stretches where he's money. And you're like, Aaron Nola, he can't find a barrel. And then he's going to have the stretches like, here we go. There's 3 homers in a game. It happens. It totally happens. And it's all about control, right? When he doesn't have command of his pitches, he gets hit around. And that's going to come and go as the season goes, too. They're going to have stretches where, just like hitters, I mean, it's the same concept. Hitters are going to have to ride the wave. You got to ride the wave of 162. There's going to be a lot of failure in that, baby.
So, right? So since I've been absent for like 4 years, baseball season wise, what do you guys think of the Aaron Nola haters that have like materialized over the last maybe 2.5 years? Because I don't get the hate. I just don't. I mean, we know what Aaron Nola is, and Luke, your point was spot on. That we used to say Jimmy Rollins was a red light player. Well, aside from one bad start that I can remember, Aaron Nola's he's a red light pitcher. When the playoffs start, when things get when things get to the to business, as we like to say, Aaron Nola shows up. So I don't get the hate for this guy.
No, I never got it, Mike, and I've sort of been on that the fight for Aaron Nola train for a while, for a long time, making posts. That's my ace, right? And you have your detractors and your haters fly in. He's not the ace. Okay, all right, but he is an ace on a lot of staffs in the big leagues. He's their number 1. He's rolling out opening day. I'm not telling you for all of them. And that's what makes us good, is that he's not our ace, right? That just makes us deeper and better. So he's one of those guys that you're gonna bitch about, you're gonna complain about, but like I told people, you're gonna miss this guy when he's not here.
Yep.
And thankfully he's still here, and we don't have to have the people be like, oh, I really miss him. We could use Nola right now. And I say things about Reese too. I get on Reese like anybody. I had no problem getting on Babe Ruth, right? But when you found out what kind of clubhouse guy he is, what kind of leader he was, those things matter to me as a baseball guy. They absolutely did, and I wanted to retain him. And listen, we made the right decision. There is no really wrong decision when you're moving your best player to first base. Like, what are you going to do? All right. And you want to get Marsh in the lineup, so it's okay. It's okay for that. But you couldn't lose Reese and Aaron. That was where my head was at. Can't let both of them go because now you're breaking up something. We're not in the business of breaking it up. We're trying to keep going. You're not going to keep everybody, but you got to keep enough. And I think Dave Dombrowski doesn't miss. I'll say that again. Dave Dombrowski doesn't miss. So if Dave Dombrowski's giving out this money, he believes in Aaron Nola like us four do. The detectives can kiss my you-know-what.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we look at it, and as we all said in our agrees in all certain ways, right? You're not going to find guys like him that are going to go 200 innings every year, right? Guy, I don't even want to say what the guy always avoids, right? Because we know my powers. We know
your truth.
But the guy goes up 200 innings every year, right? And he's going to go through stretches where you're going to look at him, you're going to go, oh my God, dude, he's in a Cy Young run, right? Like he's in a Cy Young run in the month of June, right? And stuff like that, just because of the runs that he can go on. So yeah, absolutely. I don't really get it either. I get it from a standpoint of people just love to hate in this city.
Yeah,
and me being one of them, but it's not to Aaron Nola, right? You know what I mean? Not Aaron Nola at all.
Greg, if you run through it from like 2016 on, really, or 2017 on, 168 innings, 212 innings, 202. Then in 2020, obviously only 71. That was a shortened season. Right, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2020, yeah.
Yeah, 2020 was a shortened season, right. It all runs into each other. 2021, 180. 2022, 205. And then 2023, 193. You're not getting that all-around baseball, and you're sure as heck not getting a career 3.72 earned run average, all right, and 94 wins and 73 losses. That is considered ace caliber around baseball in today's baseball. That is. I'm not telling you for the upper echelon teams, but if you go from teams 15 down, that's an ace. That's an ace. And again, that's not the ace of a World Series champion, but if you're 2 or 3, you're in a great spot.
Yeah, another thing, we're almost, like a quarter of the way through the regular season. The main thing everyone's talking about is how great the pitching staff has been. And we're going to now worry about a guy who's been great in the last 2 postseason runs. It's not going to be me. I'm good. I'm not going to be the one doing that.
Mr. Rudy Poo, you better bring yourself a super chat to make up for this outlandish comment, okay? You better knock it off. Okay, because the thing with Tobias Harris, goose egg. You're talking about a $32 million, and I didn't get into the max money stuff, but I'll sure as heck get into the max money when you're giving me a goose egg. When's Noel giving us the goose egg in the biggest moments? So if you want to play that game with me, then play that game and live your life like that. But what you just told me is you really don't watch baseball, and if you do, you don't understand it, and that's okay because it's not for everybody. It ain't built for everybody. There's guys who feel like they know it, but they don't really know it. And that's all right again. I'll say it again. I'm not taking shots at you, but that's a shottable comment. Like, that's outlandish. And when something's outlandish that hits the prompter here, we go after it. If I love you or don't love you, I'm going to let you know how I feel about it. And they ain't even in the same conversation. Like, knock it off.
I was actually, during when I started, I swear I was going to make the comparison. Greg brought it up earlier of like people hating. I was going to make that comparison in terms of like a punching bag. Like if the team goes down bad or whatever's going on, like Sixer fans, well, Tobias, and it's the same thing with Nola. But I'm not saying that, he's trash and all that. But that seems to be where the blame goes immediately.
Well, he's the longest tenured.
Right. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. If they would have let him walk, right, he would have wound up with like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Astros, the Rangers, maybe the Cubs. Like he wasn't going to, a last place team in like, the AL Central. I mean, this is a guy who was, clearly coveted by contenders. Yet, he's coveted by contenders all around Major League Baseball. But the freaking armchair general managers in this city want to hate on him.
Because the Braves definitely wanted him.
What's that?
The Braves wanted him.
Oh, yeah.
The Braves were in on him. So you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's crazy.
And who's been probably, at least definitely in the top 3, the best run organization in the sport? Definitely the Phillies, and it's his 10th season pitching for the team. So he's doing something right.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
no,
think?
for sure.
Yeah.
He absolutely is. And so are the Phillies.
Yeah.
Right? So are the Phillies. 26-12, 684 winning percentage, 2 games up over the Atlanta Braves in the division. We don't say that often. That feels good to say. That's new. Right? And if you look at the things they've done, right, they're 5th in home runs, 4th in hits, 4th in runs scored, 4th in average, 5th in stolen bases. And then you look at over their pitching stuff, we know how that's been. 5th in earned run average. Well, they've only had 1 complete game, so it doesn't even matter. 7th in innings pitched, 4th in saves, 9th in hits, 7th in earned runs, 7th in runs, 5th in home runs given up, second in strikeouts.
Can we stop you there? They're literally top 10 in every category of Major League Baseball.
Everyone. Just wanted to run it off for Rudy Pill. I want to make sure Rudy.
Here come the easy schedule guys in the comments. Guarantee it. Guarantee it.
Those guys don't remember April because we played some tomato soups in April, and we've been on the opposite end of that. And we played down the teams. We witnessed it all, right? And again, there's nothing wrong with getting off to a hot start and playing really good baseball at the jump. That doesn't mean you're going to fold at the end of the year. That means maybe you're on to something. Maybe it's the year you cut the nets down because you started this way and you didn't have to fight and scratch and claw for everything just to get in, and then blow your load at some point. Because that's what's happened at some point in each series. When you look at Houston in the World Series, and then you look at the last series versus the Diamondbacks, at some point our load was blown because we gave so much to get there. And you could say playing that first 3-game series doesn't take a lot out of you, but it does emotionally. Come on, it does. There's a lot that goes in. Another celebration, right? Not saying there's anything wrong with that way, but you can also win the World Series by winning your division too. Just because the Braves don't do it doesn't mean it's not doable. Because Houston's been doing it.
Well, and for as much as we love this staff, there's only so many bullets. And if you have to play that extra wild card series, you're burning bullets.
Absolutely. Didn't the Texas Rangers win their division last year or no? Or were they a wild card?
No, they won the division.
They won the division.
Yeah. So you don't the last 2 World Series champions, just to tell everybody this again, the last 2 World Series champions won their division. They did. Well, they were tied with the Astros. So, but I think they won it.
Didn't they have the Game 7 at home against the Astros?
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they won it. But that just goes to show you, it can be done that way when the last 2 guys that cut the nets down did it that way. So there's nothing wrong with it, especially when you've been playing late in the season for 2 straight years, hopefully going on a 3rd. Like Mike said, there's only so many bullets in those chambers. And if you got to go then throw your 2 top dogs early and then you got to bring them back, that's just an extra start that isn't necessary. And those guys can be fresher. Like we think, because the Braves collapsed, that giving yourself 4 or 5 days off is going to be a detriment. No, maybe the hitters a little bit, but my ace and Wheeler should be jazzed up for that extra time, right? Yeah. That arm's going to come out. Zip. So we want the zip, or we don't want the zip. I'm all good for playing great baseball all year long. I'm good with it. I love it. Because now it's watchable.
It is.
Here we go.
It is.
Here's this moron.
Well,
who cares, Brad? They're all major league teams, right?
And how many great teams are there this year?
I can't.
How many great teams are there this year? Go across the entire league.
There's not many.
There's not many,
Luke.
So
you're absolutely right.
You can go across the whole. I'm doing it right now. I'm looking at. I don't see a great series coming up at all because there's not that many great teams.
There's not many good teams. Even this series with Toronto, right? Toronto's considered a good team,
right?
But they're below 500. And we torched the guy that was leading the major leagues in ERA, right? We put an 8 spot up on his ass,
right.
And so what? That's not a good team. That wasn't a good win. I can't deal with the you didn't play anybody crowd.
Look back on that weekend for a minute.
Brad lost to the A's, so who's he to talk about who they play? All right, you lost to the fucking A's.
Look back on that weekend for a minute though. That wraparound series against the Giants. That had trouble written all over it because they just don't ever play well against the Giants. in San Francisco, at home, doesn't matter. They just historically don't play well against the Giants. Giants come in 4 games, get handled.
Wept.
Yep.
So, to me, that's a sign of good things.
Yeah, John,
and John's spot on, right? How many times have we gone through a year and we get, we go down to Miami and get swept, right? We go down to Miami and get swept, or
calm down.
I know it's about to happen, right? Like, if we lose to this Miami team, though, like there's a fire sale. I'm not sure Jazz might play this weekend because they're probably going to trade them already. But you know what I mean? How many times have we faced these, go out to Colorado year after year and just get absolutely hosed out there just because we don't beat the teams that we should traditionally? This year we finally are, and of course you don't play anybody.
You play the schedule that Major League Baseball made. You can't help who's on your schedule.
But it's crazy though. I was looking and Luke, it's so crazy. There's not many good teams.
No.
Like obviously you got us, the Dodgers, Braves, Orioles, and then after that there's a big drop. I mean, big drop, but you got Cleveland's up there, Kansas City's up there with good starts. I know the Yankees are up there. I just never like to mention them. But yeah, there's not many like really good teams. Everyone's jumbled in the middle.
Well, and that's big, Greg, because if you're a team like the Phillies that can get some separation at this time of the year, I mean, this team, I don't want to look too far down the road. This is a team that's got 10 home games in September.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we were talking about on Sunday how our schedule really flips towards the end of the year.
Build the cushion now, get that lead, get as big of a lead as you can, and then just make sure you ride it to the end.
And Mike, even that's so important too, because you got to win these home games now. Like that's why this stretch was so important in this run. And like you can make the case, hey Brad, like if we don't 4-game sweep the Giants out of town, they're not 16-21, babe. Right? So there's the other side of it. When you're going and sweeping cats, you're making their record early on look really bad. I'm not telling you Chicago isn't a dumpster fire. I'm not telling you that. That's the really only big tomato soup that we've come across. Everybody else is pretty much competitive. The Reds were competitive until they lost 7 in a row.
Right. So when we played them, they were, yes.
Yeah, it's not like the Reds, the Reds are this terrible team. Like, not everybody's terrible we played, right? San Diego isn't terrible. Nope. I know they're not playing great, but they're not terrible. All right. So Anaheim's terrible. I'll give you that one. But you still got to go out there. You're on the road. You're on the West Coast. Like, nothing's a gimme in baseball. And you should know that. Like, you're so old, you should know that. Just the fact that how long in the tooth you are, the fact that you don't know that is sort of amazing. Or it just goes back to that you're just the biggest hater of all time.
You start talking about old guys, I don't know whether to laugh or be offended by that.
Well, I feel like I'm in that category I'm right in the middle of that category where, calling myself out. You better know that, Tom. Rudy Poo, I think when you talk about the Eagles collapse, he says this better not be an Eagles collapse. You saw sort of some of the warts with that in a little ways. This team doesn't have warts. That's the difference. Like they don't have it. They're doing elite stuff to win games.
Yeah, right? I mean, but Buster Only was mentioned that power rankings wise, he of course he picked them to win the World Series, but after the weekend in with San Francisco, he was even more blown away about this team than he was. And then Jason Stark was even saying today too that you go try and find a person like what Bryce Harper just did up until today. 3-run bomb, grand slam in 3 consecutive games. He couldn't find anybody in history that has done that. 3-run granny in 3 consecutive games. So, yeah, I mean, they're playing really well right now. It's just you had a chance today too. You had a chance. Getaway day, I think you had a chance to win it, and like Luke said, the bats just kind of were a little dead today up until late.
Well, so you know what the problem there was, right? They had an appointment for bottle service at the Clevelander at 10 p.m.
Yeah,
they're trying to get out of there and get on the plane.
to be there to get the off day started tomorrow.
Yeah, they got an off day in Miami. They're flying out today. Bottle service at the Clevelander tonight.
Yeah, and okay, it's a getaway day for Toronto, Greg, but like Mike just said, it's a getaway day for us too.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I know his ERA is a little high, but Chris Bassitt's not exactly a tomato can on the mound.
No, he's good.
So
he's obviously he's their number 2 or 3, depending on how you rate Kikuchi, right?
Yep.
And so we faced their 2 studs in theory, and we torched one and took the L today. But I think anyone coming into this, we were sitting there on Sunday saying, "Oh, he split with Toronto is a good start to the week." Especially when you win the wraparound and you sweep the Giants.
Yeah, the reach around was important, right?
The reach around is never easy.
When you get the reach
especially
around,
not for us, because we're a little on the larger side.
Yeah, tough. You got a lot of. You better be long. You better be long. So MLB Network came out with something today. I thought was just goes to show you some of the culture that we're building here. Trey Turner recently pointed something out to Bryce Harper about his swing after watching film of Harper's 2021 MVP season. The adjustment is clearly working. So, it just shows you, he's not in the lineup. Obviously, he's hurt on the IL, but can still have an impact when you're a great teammate.
Wait.
And all
Tom,
you care about is
hold on
winning.
a second. You said that was Turner, right?
Yeah.
Luke, didn't you say last week that Turner was trying to fix Rojas too?
I don't think so, but
I thought it was you who said that, but I thought Turner was the one who was helping to fix Rojas' swing too.
He probably is. Just goes to show you he's obviously watching a lot of video.
He said the video was at, I believe, the year before he came here. It was that tape, and he was looking at that tape from 2021, I believe it was.
Yeah, the 2021 season.
Yeah.
So he found something in it, and he then goes off and it's 3 homers in 3 days. So, thanks, Trey. Hey,
there you go.
Appreciate
Kat.
you.
Hey, Kat, thanks for that. I know I'm not getting rid of Kevin Long because that's my guy. But hey, Kat, thanks.
We might not need you, Kev.
Yeah,
Trey, can you play and double dip as hitting coach? We'll give you even more money.
Definitely outworked you there. But it goes to show you what kind of leader he is, and the want to win. Those things matter. They absolutely matter, and that's what creates a great clubhouse, right? And then the other side of it is no ego, right? Because I'm a big believer, in no ego. So if a guy comes up to you and he sees something, you got to be open enough. It goes to Harper. You got to be open enough to want to be successful to say, "What'd you see?" Right? And have a little excitement. Oh, okay, I was doing all right, right? And then you're on to something. But if you got ego in you and nobody can talk to you and there's no adjustments ever made, that's what bad players do.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that's not Bryce Harper. And the other positive is Nick seems to be swinging it better too, which we assumed was going to come at some point. And obviously Stotty's swinging it a little bit now too. So those 2 guys are starting to swing it a little bit better, which is important when you're without Trey for a long period of time.
And I think the key, obviously, we talk about all the time with Nicky is a lot of his stuff is done right center, right? A lot of his stuff right now is backside right center, where we know that's where he lives when he's going good. And even Bryce's homer that started the streak a couple games ago, right? Where was that? It was left center, right? Left field, left center, stayed locked in and just powered the ball to that zone. And when those guys, we remember back to Ryan Howard. When was Ryan Howard nasty? Is when he's peppering that left center fence and that left center stands because he's locked in.
Oh man, that just makes me laugh because in the history of like baseball that I've been around, you'll hear dryer sheets tell you if you're using the big part, you're late. He's just late. Tom, he's late on stuff. He ain't late. If you're barreling in play, you sure as heck ain't late. And the second part of that is when you work the big part early, it gets you on and through the baseball. Mm-hmm. It's why when you first do front toss, there's about not rolling your wrist and staying through it and working your mechanics that way and not like over swinging the hit balls away early on. So you get the feel of staying through a baseball. There's a reason everything starts away and then you work the rest of the field. Like that's been in the history of baseball. It's not a new concept. Obviously, we're talking about Ryan Howard. It's been going on for a long time. So like when hey, when I hit a ball away, I get going. Come on. That's as pro hitters, it always makes me laugh. Because like, how do you guys not know that? And how are you not trying to do more of it?
Ryan Howard's favorite number was 368. And that's a gap in left center at Citizens Bank Park.
Dude, when he first came up, he wore that out.
Yep.
I mean, he did through his whole career, but like that first stretch of his rookie year, when he first came up there at the end, and he was just on fire. He just wore out. He wore out left center. Wore it out. And that's what great hitters do, because you get going, and then you pull a ball naturally.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I don't understand these guys, like you said, Tom, dryer sheets. Like if you're just straight up mashing the ball gap to gap, I mean, and you're just crushing. And then a guy makes a mistake inside and you jerk it and it's gone. Like, I don't understand these guys. Oh, he's late. He's not seeing the ball. He needs the ball inside to be able to pull the ball. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, because he works in and out. When you work in and out, you're successful. Right. And Alec Boehm's a big, in out type swing too. Right. And you stay inside it, you stay through it. And like I said, if you hit a ball down you're a righty, you hit the ball down the right field line, and it's gone. Were you late? You're late, baby, if it goes on the other side of the foul pole.
Yeah, you're late if it doesn't. Yeah, if it's not fair.
Yeah, that's on time. It's on time. Like
if you're barreling it for a dinger, you're on time.
Everybody loves to pull a baseball. I ain't against pulling a baseball, but like when your thought process is like middle, and you're thinking about living there, like you're never trying to hit a ball. You're never trying to pull a ball down the line either. Like it just happens. But yeah, I always thought that stuff was funny. So, but you're right. When Nicky and Harper start using that, you're like, guys are gonna start getting hot.
Yeah, watch out.
It's funny how you can just look at it and know that.
I was at the game yesterday, and I'll just say this, not that everyone doesn't already know this, but it's so refreshing to root for somebody that is just nationally just loved and respected. Like Harper is just like so all the kids say like he's got that aura, like he has that, like everyone loves him, like he's got the whole vibe and everything, and it's just like you look around the whole city right now, and it's like Embiid's playing the villain, Hurts, and no one likes the Eagles, like they're the villain, and the Flyers, it's like who really cares? But like this team and the star of this team just embraces that, like everyone loves and respects him, and it took me to go to the game to really take a step back and really appreciate that, which is really cool. So, I mean, yeah, what a time to be a fan right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's no question, no doubt about it, a star in this league. And, he's even sold Jonathan Papelbon. So,
that was surprising. Holy
guy who choked him out. And he sold him because he's changed, right? He's changed, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you at times in Washington there wasn't some selfish baseball, right? But guys grow, man. I'm talking about a 21-year-old kid. I ain't the same guy.
He came up at 18, right? 19.
I ain't the same guy I was 10 years ago, right?
Yep.
At 31 as I am at 41, right? I sure as heck ain't the same guy 20 years ago when I was 21 as I am at 41. That's natural growth as a man, as a human. You want growth in your life, right? If he's the same cat he was at 21, he ain't getting a 10-year deal by anybody, no matter how talented he is, right? You got to earn that, right? And he grew. He grew as a man. He grew as a player. And he grew as a leader. And that's the most important thing. He grew as a leader, and his want to win, I think, really took another step when Washington won and he signed here. I think it even took there was another level to that internally, because he's like, oh, what did I do wrong? Was it me, right? And I think you self-evaluate. And the greats are willing to be accountable, self-evaluate themselves, and make changes. And this is what we've watched.
Think about the pressure he had, too. I mean, if he wasn't as good as he is now, he probably would have been seen as a bust because all the hype that was around him. It takes some sort of cat to be able to pull that off in front of all that pressure he had.
It's not easy.
No.
Right? It's definitely not easy. And, guys want to play with him. That's a big talent.
Yeah, he made Philadelphia a destination spot for baseball.
Totally.
Yep.
Must watch TV, too.
Yep. It's funny because, Luke, to your point, in the postseason, and Tom, this kind of goes to what Uncle Sweeps was talking about the other day. When, superstars are made in the postseason, Bryce Harper was a superstar before he came here. What he's done in the postseason since he's been here, he's a megastar. And fact of the matter is, he made Philadelphia a destination spot And everything that he's done since he's gotten here has basically just built a love affair with the fans. And until that love affair goes sour, this place, because eventually you're going to see Schwarber's going to become a free agent, Castellanos is going to become a free agent, and there's going to be other guys, other big name signings that are going to come in and replace those guys. And all the while, Harper and Turner are just going to be the two mainstays on those, 10, 12-year contracts.
Yeah, and you hope Alec and you hope Stotty. You hope it's built around some of the younger guys and obviously guys that are going to be a little older, but it's set up for a long time, which is nice. It really is, and there's no sign of Harper slowing down anytime soon. And I think the move to first base just makes that career go longer too, right?
Yeah.
I think you get more production at 35, 36 than you would if you still run out the right field every day.
Sure.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I just think it just takes a little off of the body. And
yeah, we all thought when he signed that huge deal at some point in his career he'd be there at first base, right? Just because of the athlete he is. I don't think we all thought it was going to be this early, but that's the way it's the way it rolled, and I think it's like you said earlier, Tom. I think it was the right move, especially because of the longevity that it's going to prove and do for him. And let's be real, he's playing a really good first base.
No, he's good. He's good.
He's playing a really good first base. He's not a black. He's not a fumbling idiot over there defensively. Like like some first basemen are in this
Probably
league.
win a Gold Glove when it's all said and
He
done.
probably will. Absolutely.
He's prideful in his defense. He always has been.
Yeah, and all of that it's actually caused a domino effect in a good way, though, because him moving to first base now sort of prolongs his ability to be a good defensive player. So you don't, I think we all knew at some point he was eventually going to be a DH. When the DH got adopted in the National League, everyone's thinking, how long can Harper play right field before he has to, move to first base and then eventually to DH? I actually feel like with him moving to first base earlier in his career, they're going to get more defensive years out of him before he has to go full-time DH. And that's going to allow them to get through the Schwarber contract, through the Castellanos contract. They'll be able to bring in other free agents. They'll be able to bring guys up from the minors. And right now they have a couple of guys in their low minors that are flat-out studs. So, all of this is helpful in a real positive way.
I think the biggest thing this organization has done essentially is not sold the farm to get here.
Yeah.
Right. And so many times you can sell the farm to get here. They've not done that. Right. They've held on. They've held on the first round picks here.
Which is weird for Dombrowski, right, Tom?
But he's done it differently, right? We talk about growing. You talk about growing. Like it wasn't. See, this is where John Middleton comes in. It wasn't. Hey, we got to win one, and that's all that matters. Right. No. This is the thought process and a build up to be successful for a 5-10 year stretch, right? To be the Yankees, right? And that kind of conversation where you're winning 90 games for 10 years in a row per se, right? But that's how they're building it. And they're building it by spending the money on guys they want and not feeling they have to go trade everybody to get those guys. They do their work in the offseason to build their roster. They're not doing their work at the trade deadline. If they got to make little moves, they've shown they'll do that too, right? And bring in upgrades like a Brandon Marsh. But you didn't have to sell the farm for that. He gave up Logan O'Hoppe, who was never going to catch you. Let's be real. Yep. I mean, JT's going to catch till he's 35 because he's built like that, and that's just who he is. But you get where I'm going with that. And you talk about Aiden Miller, and you talk about some of the other young guys that they've drafted over the years. It is. I'm not telling you all those guys are going to be good. We've been down that road too. But by not giving any of those picks up and keeping these guys in your system, you're building a farm system while your team's successful. That's what great organizations do. That's what's going to keep you sustainable for a while. That's what's going to make John Middleton more money than he ever thought he could make. And that's where we're at right now.
Well, and to that point, though, Tom, let's just say a couple of years from now, Alec Boehm is no longer arbitration eligible, and he's ready to become a free agent. And John Middleton says, no, here's a 5-year deal. Well, guess what? Miller now becomes trade bait for an ace or a closer or an ace and a closer.
Yeah.
You never know.
And when you hit like that, maybe you aren't, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? But you have the flexibility down the road, right? Where you have another 2 first-round picks that you've drafted since him per se, right? Before you make that conversation, and then you're still replenishing yourself. Doesn't mean you're going to hit on all of them, but not only first-round picks, you have all your picks because you can hit on any pick. And whatever. I think they're doing a fantastic job on that stuff, and then also, spending the money that needs to be spent. What up, Greg? All right, you guys want to get into some Sixers, or you want to run off the next 7, Greg, like we like to do?
Next 10. Next 10, you got
10
Miami. 3 for Miami. A weird 2-2 home and home with the Mets. And then home versus the Nationals. So all NL East opponents, 10 games. I'm getting greedy. I'm going 8-2.
Yep.
Get out of my head, Greg. 8-2.
I think they're playing too good. Like, we sat there and, with the lineup that they rolled out last night, you expected today's performance last night, right? When they roll out, when Topper rolls out his specialty lineup, you're like, oh boy, here we go. We're getting no hit by Barrios. Well, we got it by Bassitt, but that game was coming. So I'm 8-2.
They're dropping 1 in Miami, and they might drop 1 to the Mets. 8-2.
I'll go 7-3 because I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with it either.
No, it's a good one. Yeah,
still playing really good baseball. I mean, I'll take 8-2. I was gonna trump you guys and be like 9-1, 9-1, but I know how that goes for me. So I'll go a little conservative because usually when I'm conservative, teams play better. I don't know why that's a thing, but that's the thing. I said,
our 10-game stretches over the last, couple of weeks have been really, really good. We're constantly in that at worst 7-3, but this last one we were 9-1 up until today, so now we're 8-2 in our last 10. We've been playing some really good baseball.
It's good. It's good problem to have.
Yeah,
it's a good problem to have. Keep it up, boys.
We like this time.
have another great month, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. It's about having great months. So, if you have a hiccup here and there throughout the season, you're giving yourself the luxury of that. That's the key of getting off the hot starts too. Is now Turner's out for 6 weeks, right? Well, you're a week into losing them, and you lost 1 game.
Yeah.
So that's a win now. That's how you got to look at it. Because the more you win, the more you say take 7 weeks. When you talk about hamstrings, right?
Especially
the more you win, the more you win, the more you can push it a little bit. Give it an extra day, give it an extra 2 days if you're winning, and that's what they're doing. So
can we give Topper a little bit of credit on this one though too?
Right.
Just the fact that he looked. No, I mean legitimately, the fact that he looks out on his field and he sees Bryson Stott and he says, you know what, I'm not going to be stubborn and say, well, Bryson's my second baseman now. I'm not moving him back to shortstop. He looks out at Bryson Stott and says, I have a shortstop playing second base. My shortstop is hurt. Guess what, Bryson? You're getting some time at shortstop. And he's played well over there.
And it's to get Witt in, too, which you paid with the bat.
Yeah.
You're paying with the play. So any way you can work that out. And I like Sosa in spurts. Mm-hmm. I think Amundo brings you some good stuff in spurts. I think when you play him every day, like a lot of guys, they'll get exposed. But in spurts, I think he's really good. And that's what we talked about Sunday, Greg, was when was that going to happen? I'll definitely give Topper that. The one thing I will not give Topper credit for at all, and I will continue to expose this, Brandon Marsh is an everyday player. And if you don't want to watch baseball enough, Topper, and you want to be a casual, and you want to go to the freaking analytics, then let's do it. But I'm so sick and tired that you can't back guys versus lefties. The changes he's made in his approach, in everything he does. There's no leg kick anymore. Look at what Brandon Marsh does. It's simplified. Brandon Marsh is simplified, and all he's done from that is raise his average 200 points, put his contact percent rate up 10%, put his exit velo up 10%, hard hit balls up 10%. That doesn't matter. We ain't going to look at those analytics, Topper. That's an everyday player. So I don't know why organizationally we have to run from it. Now, if you want to give him off once in a while off really tough lefties, okay. That's okay. Everybody can take a day off once in a while. I'm not telling you got to play 7 days a week, but that dude's a minimum 6 day a week player. And if he's not, then I don't know what I'm watching. Like, you want guys to get in rhythm? Like, you don't get in rhythm by playing 2, off 2, playing 2, off 2. That's the opposite of rhythm. Like, I'm not up for that. Like, I don't like that. And I don't know how you guys feel about it, but Brandon Marsh has to play every day.
I'm in full agreement. I've always been there. You don't make that trade for a platoon player, right? Regardless if Logan O'Hoppe ever catches here, you don't waste that bullet of a trade chip for a platoon guy, right? I get it. He at that time in that year, still young, still working through it, but he ain't there anymore. Like you said, Tommy, he's in the top 5 of exit velos and hard hit balls in all of Major League Baseball. He is absolutely an everyday player, and he's kind of the same thing with Bryson, right? He's a center fielder playing left field, right? So the defense is even going to be elevated there as well.
And he's one of your leaders.
Yes.
He's one of them. I mean, you have many guys on this team, but he's one of your guys, and he's not going to throw a hissy fit for not playing. Or you talk about a guy with 6 home runs, 20 ribbies, and 118 at bats. Like, come on, like that dude should be up in the 150s. And I think part of his little struggles is the inconsistency of playing time. So I'm a Brandon Marsh fan. If Rojas keeps missing fly balls like he did
that was tough.
In the one game I watched, you could come out of the seat, because if you ain't picking at a high level, I don't care if you're getting everything or not. If you ain't picking at a high level, come have a seat for a minute. Like, if you're trying to get guys in the lineup, like, do it that way. Yeah. I mean, I don't know why Marsh becomes your platoon and Rojas ain't. Are we out of our minds? Are we okay? Rojas can't hit anything. If it's a lefty or right, he's in there strictly because he's an elite defender. That's okay, too. The game's played both ways, right? There's nothing wrong with elite defense. I'm a big fan of it. But if that guy doesn't sit, what is Marshy sitting for? Am I watching the same game? Yeah. Like, who do you think has more success? Rojas versus a righty or Marsh versus a lefty?
Yeah. Well, I also got news for you. If all you're looking for out of Rojas is elite defense, you look no further than Christian Pache, and you can put Rojas at AAA so we can learn how to hit.
True.
Because you lose almost nothing in defense if you go from Rojas to Pache.
No, and Pache's a better hitter, and that's not saying a lot.
Right. It's not saying much, but
and I'm not like clamoring for Marsh to start in center. I just want Marsh in left field every day. And that's fine. Play Rojas every day. I don't care. Right? It doesn't bother me. It only bothers me when Marsh has a seat, Nicky never has a seat.
Yeah.
And Rojas doesn't have seats. What are we doing? I'm not telling you Nick should sit either. You're paying him to play every day. I get it. Rojas, you're not playing. You're paying to play every day. That could be a defensive substitution in the 7th inning. Like, is this your first time, Topper? That's my only issue with him. I don't get caught in to how he uses his bullpen. I don't get caught up in all that stuff, because I look at it as a manager, that's your feel. And I'm not going to question your feel unless it's wrong consistently. Right? And he does a pretty good job with that. So that's, I'm not going to Monday morning quarterback every one of those decisions. I more look at your lineup decisions, and that's where I'm like, we good?
Yeah.
That's what you want to roll out today? Like, you lost Trey Turner. Are we okay? Like, when you lose Trey Turner, then I need some pop. I need some speed. I need some of those things in my lineup. And Marshy brings it.
You're not good with Corey Clemens and his home run and his triple?
I do like Corey now. I do.
He's a gamer.
He is a gamer. I do like Corey. Every time he comes up, he hits early, and then he'll stop. But he'll give you the early production until pitchers start adjusting to him.
And he came up in such a huge spot today.
Yeah.
And listen, we were probably losing anyway, but any chance of a comeback, he's got to get a hit there.
Yeah.
Right? He's got to hit it. He's got to get a single. He's got to get on base some way to, tighten up Romero's butthole a little bit more. But he swung at that first pitch and popped it up, and I'm like, game over. Come on, Cody. You could have been a hero.
Where did he pop it up to? Because I was on the radio, so I didn't know.
Like shortstop, in the infield.
That's fun.
Yeah. Like, he totally got jammed, totally got in on him, and was just so over anxious, and he felt so bad for it because he knew obviously he wanted to get a huge hit.
Yeah, he made up his mind before he even got to the plate that if the first pitch was anywhere.
First pitch is there, I'm swinging.
Yeah, first pitch is anywhere near me, I'm gripping and ripping.
Yeah, I didn't come up here to take pitches.
Look, I got Bryce's bat. I got
We got
runners on
Bryce
base.
back.
It's time to swing.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with you hunting. You know,
No.
I only have a problem when you pop it up. Then I'm like, what are you doing, dude? You know,
Yeah.
it's like that Monday morning quarterback. That too. You hit in the gap. You're like, what a hunt, baby, boy. Baseball.
When's the first pitch fastball? Way
Yeah.
to be on time.
Baseball's fun. Baseball is fun. All right, if you haven't already, hit the like, subscribe, turn your alerts on, join the conversation. Going to segue to some Sixers talk. If that's good for you boys. I know we don't want to, Luke. I feel it.
I want to. This is just my God.
All right, we'll start off with how'd you guys feel about Daryl Morey's end of year presser? What were your takeaways? And did you have any positives about it? I will go last on this one.
I'll go first. I
I'm gonna
guess.
say I'll defer to Luke.
I'm gonna go with the big fat who cares. I think that I did a huge flashback, and Brett Brown had a quote a long time ago. This is around Jimmy time or whatever. He said, "We're star hunting," and after that happened, here comes Al Horford. That was our answer to that quote. I hear the same thing out of his mouth, and albeit that was a weird time where like Elton Brand was kind of new and whatever, and Morey is a star hunting GM. I'll give him that. But I'm sitting here right now. We have all this money. That's great. And yes, it's the NBA is probably the biggest league of unknowns in sports in terms of, stars being upset and asking for trades and their contract, whatever, wanting extensions. You tell me today, you're star hunting. Out of all these guys in this pool of free agents with the money that you have, who's a star? And don't sit up here for 2 minutes and tell me that Paul George is a star, because he's not. Because in the playoffs, he's not a star. I'm at the point now where I'm not going to get hype over somebody who averaged 20 points a game in the regular season. I'm way past that. Because we are at the point now where we cannot get over the hump. What are you going to do for me in the playoffs? If you're not a star in the playoffs, you're not a star, point blank, period. So there isn't a star out there unless he somehow appears. I don't know who the heck the star is. Now, maybe it's Jimmy Butler. Maybe it's him. And he's
Why are you shaking your head? Why are you shaking your head? Well, he just said everything about it. He said, I want a guy who is great in the postseason.
Yes.
Greg, to your point.
Is he?
Is he not?
Did he win?
I mean, he took an 8 seed to the final. But I'll say this. If you can guarantee me that he's healthy in the postseason with a Tyrese, with an Embiid, I'll drink the Kool-Aid all day. But I can't sit up here and honestly feel good about paying assets to get the guy in here, because the only reason he's going to want to go from there to here is because he's going to want an extension. So you're going to have to extend it. You're going to have to pay a 35-year-old an extension after a season he hasn't been healthy, and that's my question mark. Not what he's going to put forth on the court. That's
you don't have to give max
discussion.
money to that. But you don't have to give max money to that because of the things you just said. Because of the injury, because of Pat Riley essentially called him out.
Well, he's the only way he gets traded is he did the same thing how we got here the first time. Minnesota didn't want to extend him. He said, all right, peace, I want out. And then we were the team that got him. So now it's going to be the same thing where...
And that's how we got to Miami.
Yeah, that's how we got to Miami. So is he going to be okay with not taking an extension, but I'll play with my guy Embiid? If he's doing that, and then you get like a 2-year, because I believe he has 2 years left on his deal, that fits the timeline. Now, if you go trade for him and trade 3 first-round picks or whatever you're going to trade, and then extend him on top of it, absolutely not. I don't do it. But it's just like everything that Daryl said, it's like, who cares? You could tell me anything you want. We've gone through this for 10 years now as fans of this team, and you've told me of everything in the book, and here we are, first round, second round exit. I'm done caring about what any of these guys say. It's all chalkboard stuff. That's all it is. Chalk it up. We'll see you in June, and we'll have the same conversation next year. It's a joke.
No, a lot of what you said is spot on there. I look at what he said. You know, it was like that opening press conference with Gabe Kapler, right? Like the people you decide to name drop at your presser, like kind of shows a little bit of your cards, right? Like Paul Reed's gonna be back on this basketball team, right? You know what I mean? By the way he was talking about him.
Yeah,
But Buddy Hield's not going to be back on this basketball team. It wasn't actually decent to hear and him call himself out for that, not seeing that fit. And I think we all kind of, got blinded by that too. I think we all kind of thought that fit would be better. And maybe he does bring him back, and maybe you use training camp and workouts to build that fit a little bit better. Because obviously in game 5, he showed game 6. Yeah, that's right. He showed that he obviously can make shots in this league. Buddy's obviously big issue is creating his own and getting his own space. But a full year and a full off-season training camp with Joel, maybe that fits there. So I agree, though. Most of it is lip service. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
What name drops are you alluding
to? The Paul
to?
Reed, the Buddy Hield, like him calling those guys out specifically, right?
I think he had to say the Paul Reed thing. I don't think there's any chance he's on the team after what he just did. I think he had to because he's under contract. And if he didn't say his name, he was basically telling everyone already that he wasn't going to be under contract. I don't think there's any chance that he stays. But how funny was it? The most Sixer thing ever. It's like Buddy Hield can't get on the court and he can't make anything. We're down by 20. I would rather be down 40. Put me out of my misery. And then who of all people, Buddy Hield bringing us back. Oh, we have hope, and then we choke in the end.
Yeah.
Well, we sat here last week and we said that it would be like the most Sixerist thing to happen would be for them to, to cut our hearts out in a game 6 at home because that's what they always do.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't take much from it. It was what it was. He didn't really say anything that really sold me. I don't necessarily believe he's like, we're going to go hunt for stars, right? He didn't really get into that from what I remember. It was more just, like Greg said, lip service. And again, he has a blank canvas. So what do you do with it? That's the question. I mean, Mike, did you take anything more out of it than those guys said?
So, short answer is no. But I think the problem for me is when I listen to Daryl Morey speak, like legitimately the first thing that comes to mind is used car salesman. He's a used car salesman. He's a mortgage broker. He's, whatever slimy, stereotypical, whatever you want to call him. Like, and it's funny because I'll throw it back a little bit. Like, at least when Sam was here, we felt like there was a plan. We didn't like it, but we felt like there was a plan. With Daryl,
I miss you, Sam.
With Daryl, it's just like, it's he's like, hey, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat, and who's he going to wind up with on the squad this year? I just, I think I like the idea of him coming in here, but now I'm just sort of like, okay, can we get a real GM in here now?
And he's had the two most offensive in recent memory. Harden and Embiid. Harden in Houston and Embiid here have been offensively probably the most talented offensive players in this generation, and he hasn't won anything.
He can't build a team around him.
And so his way of constructing a team, the biggest takeaway from the press conference, if that's what we want to talk about, is that his way of building a team is getting the best players here. He doesn't believe in 2 players and a lot of good guys around him. He believes in, I want stars, the best of the best players on my team. That's fine. And if you want to do that, that's fine. And that's totally a way to win. It's worked before. But what you need to do and what all these other teams and how those teams succeed need to do, you need to draft well, or you need to make use of your money better. Like Isaiah Joe needs to hit. Paul Reed needs to hit. Jaden Springer needs to hit. That's how those teams still have depth when they put money in stars. And you don't do it. And that's why if you want to bring in another star, I still have no hope because you're going to have no bench. You're going to have nothing because you don't spend money well and you can't draft worth anything. And don't give me the Maxey thing because that was a total side case where 20 other idiots didn't want him out there. And that was beyond me. I still don't understand that. So it's never going to work. He's never going to win.
I'll get to that in a second. But my thing is he has 2 stars here, right? So does he necessarily believe that he needs to go get another one?
That's what he said. That's what he said.
What was the exact words with that one?
He said he believes in bringing the best players here. And he also said what was really specific when the question was, what do you believe is the biggest need? His answer was a wing player that's going to play very well in the playoffs. Now, to me, that's not spreading money out across 4 players. That's I want a guy this summer. That's pretty much what he said.
I don't have a problem with that.
Neither do
I.
I. Yeah.
I'm not against like getting a wing guy who can create their own shot and can take guys off the dribble. But
don't give me Paul George. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Well, we had him and he never played a game in a Sixers uniform.
Mikal Bridges.
Yeah,
Yep.
Exactly.
No,
And
I didn't want him.
I think there's guys out there, right? 1, and then 2. Like, I don't know if I throw like a hissy fit over Paul George. I'm not saying I'm clamoring for Paul George. Paul George is uber talented. I mean, like, he can create his own shot. I know he hasn't been great in the postseason, but he's also gone further than we have. So it's not like he hasn't had success, right? I don't really kind of look at what's happened in LA and sort of go throw that on him. No. You know, when you're taking the best player off the floor, that's never an easy fix. And he's playing with the biggest loser of all time in James Harden. So I don't put much stock into that. I put a lot of stock into Paul George. Has never been like what I consider a piece of garbage in this league, right? No. I don't look at him like that. I'm not against him. I'm also like I also don't love it, right? I'm not gonna like run the broad shit over it. But we're better. We're better. Him, Jimmy, make us better. And I'm not about 5 years from now. That's the key here. So like I know people don't want to spend on 32-year-olds, 33-year-olds, etc. I get it. Neither do I. But my timeline is now. My timeline's been the last 3 years, but now it's really now. I got to go after it. And that doesn't mean you don't spread your bench out. That's the great thing about a blank canvas. That's the great thing about a ton of money to spend, right? You know, can you get a Paul George? I know he said he wanted max money, right? But, you know, can you get a guy like that without not spending max money? You know, is it Jimmy Butler not getting max money because he's trying to win one, right? I mean, that's the question for some of these guys now, right? How bad do they want to win one? I don't know.
But how ridiculous is it, though, that this is the year when the Sixers are going to have a ton of money to spend, and there's literally nobody out there that's
to me that's his
nobody
fault.
Out there that's moving the needle.
That's the GM's fault for not getting ahead of the curve because there hasn't been a great free agent signing since it's been a long time. Because now what people do is they ask for an extension, they play a year or two into that money, into that contract, and then they want out and they get traded. No one hits free agency anymore. So all I heard all trade deadline was, we want that money. We want to prioritize that money. So basically, they've been saving themselves for what seems like will probably be Paul George. Mm-hmm. Instead of using assets to get guys that, albeit, yes, they might have years left on their contract. But how nice would it have been in that series against the Knicks, where you clearly were probably more competitive than the Pacers are and, you know, played them real tough. They're a good team. If you had an Andre Drummond or if you had a DeJounte Murray, how nice would that have been? I'll go as far to say, even with Embiid on one leg, you probably would have won the series. But now we're at home with all this money, with no one there but Paul George. And I hate to say it, but with the way he spends money, how bad he is at drafting and all these other things, they'll be out of the second round with or without Paul George. So good job.
And the guy they're going to have coming off their bench is going to be like one-legged Klay Thompson.
Yeah.
Not against it.
Oh, I'm not on a
I
good
actually
deal. I'm
don't
not
hate that
against
name.
it. I'm not against it.
That's one of the names I actually don't hate, but I hear
Yeah,
you.
but
I hear you. It's the MO, right? It's that MO.
and he's just so banged up and so old now that if he gives you 15 minutes a night, it's a lot.
For sure.
I think I just
Paul
talked
George
myself
is-
into the Jimmy thing. I think it's got to be him
Well,
because
listen,
But
it's Jimmy
Miami-
or Paul. It's Jimmy or Paul George, right? It's not. I don't think there's any more debate for anything else when you're talking about wing players specifically, right? It's whatever one fits you better, whatever one you like better. I mean, Paul George essentially played an entire season last year, right? I mean, I know he's had some short ones where he played 56 games, right? He played, well, 54 was a shortened year, and then 2021 was that shortened too? 21, 22. I don't remember if it
no,
was.
I don't think
It
so.
wasn't.
No,
he
it
played
wasn't.
31, so he's banged up that year. Last year, 56, and then 74. But before that, it was 75, 79, 77. So, I mean, he has a track record of playing enough. And then his postseason numbers that everyone want to say they're bad. I mean, in 2020, 2021 with the Clippers in 19 games, he averaged 26 a game. And he had almost 10 boards a game and over 5.5 assists. This past year, they only played 6, but he averaged 19 and a half. Right? That better than Tobias. Almost 7 rebounds and almost 5 assists and over a steal. Right? So, I mean, is that better than Tobias Harris? Because it is. So, does that not make us better? That's the question that I had back. Right? Now, what can you build around it?
Well, you're basically handcuffing yourself. The thing with Butler is that you then still have around 15, 20 million to spend if you get Jimmy Butler if that's the route you take. If you get Paul George, you're really handcuffing yourself and not really being able to add depth to the team outside of the guys that you've already had. And you're also pretty much just signing up for what will be eventually the worst contract in the sport, because he's going to be making 50 million at 37 or whatever he'll be in 4 years. And I think we can all pretty much assume he will, at that point, he's not going to be much at all. So I would rather, if those are my options, I would rather go Jimmy Butler personally. I think it's a safer option. Short term. It also fits your window where if this is your window, your 2-year window with Embiid, Butler's off contract, you can trade or move on from Embiid. You have all the money because Butler's contract's expired, Embiid's contract's about done, and you have Maxey. So I feel like in terms of the window, that fits perfectly.
Yeah, and Jimmy's playoff success the last 2 years he was in it and went deep is absurd, right?
And the best shot we've had in the Embiid era was with him, and he was the leader of the whole run.
And I still think there's enough in the tank.
Yes.
Right? Like, I do believe there's still enough. But, his last 2 – I mean, goodness, guys. I mean, if you look at Jimmy, his last 3 years, he's not played a full season.
So the way the league is now, though, you saw it with us. We were the 7 seed going up against a 2 seed, and that 2 seed wasn't all that good. I think you're going to see that for the next few years, where that 2 to 7 range is pretty much going to be even. So I'm at the point where I don't need you to play 70 games. If you can give me 45, 55, 60 around that range, and we can be good enough to be the 6 or 7 seed, and you're healthy for the playoffs, I'm cool with that. I don't care what seed we are. If you give me a healthy Embiid, Butler, and Maxey, I'm feeling real good.
So I'm sitting here looking at the list of names that are going to be free agents this coming off season. And there's obviously, there's a bunch of guys that have team options and player options and stuff like that. But as I'm sitting here scrolling through this list of guys that are just going to be completely unrestricted, legitimately, there is not a single name on this list that I look at and go, yeah, that's a difference maker for the Sixers. Like, that guy just does not exist this offseason.
The other side of the argument, though, is if you sign 4 of those guys versus getting 1 Jimmy Butler, 1 Paul George, does that make your team better? Like, does a Malik Monk, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and a Bruce Brown, would you rather have those 3 guys or the 1 star? I personally, after watching us crumble like that, I would take the 1 star. But you're also then putting hope in Daryl, spending money the right way and hitting on this pick. They have the 16th pick in the draft. They're going to have a chance to get a good player. Needs to be a hit.
Yeah, I got no problem with Paul George. I'll continue to say that. I mean, I think people are really crazy if he doesn't make you big time better. That's substantially better. Like if you swap out Paul George and Tobias Harris, this isn't even up for debate. That's the crazy part of it. I know it's not the run the broad name. I get that part of it. I'm on that. The more I think about it, the more I'm selling myself on it a little bit, right? But I'm just playing the other side of the Paul George conversation. But if you swap money and you swap players, we're still playing. We're still playing. That's the bottom line. Because that's how much better he is in the postseason than Tobias Harris is. That's how much better he is overall than Tobias Harris. He actually has a pulse in the postseason, not crowning it either. And we know Jimmy's postseason. So if you swap either one of those guys with Tobias Harris, this team is absolutely better. Because the biggest kicker of all of it, Luke, that we're sort of leaving out of this is the growth of Tyrese Maxey.
Yes,
And year in, year out. That growth is big time. And I'll put one more name in there. Every year, Joel Embiid comes back better. Every year he does. I mean, every year he gets hurt again at the same time. But every year he comes back with something in his game that's better. The same with Maxey. So, like, I'll never bet against those two getting better. That's the great part of it. I'll bet that Joel will be hurt again. But the Maxey development's the big one. And if Maxey continues to get better, like we think he is, and you can build and put the right little pieces around there. Remember, you don't have to go 10 deep in the playoffs. You got to go 8, 7. That's how it's going. That's how all these teams are doing it. They're 8 deep. They run eight people at you. We see it with Tibbs in New York. So you just need the right 5. If your starting 5 is legit and you have 2 or 3 guys that you can trust in coming off the bench, like you tell me if you get Paul George or Jimmy Butler and you can somehow bring back a guy like Buddy off your bench for low money and not crazy money, you're better. If you can bring Batum back somehow, you're better. Like, I'm not telling you we're winning it all. We're better than Boston, but you can't tell me Embiid, Maxey, and Paul George or Butler isn't just close to being as good as what Boston's running out there. You can't tell me that.
Yeah, the reason I'm going to lean towards Butler is because I think if they want to do that and go big money spending and get the star, I need somebody who's a killer. That's what's going to beat you, take them above Boston, above all those teams where it's the end of the game, we need a bucket, or we're out of a tough stretch, Maxey's having a tough night, who's getting me out of it? I am much more confident, not even debatable, not even close, on a night in, night out basis than Jimmy Butler. It's not close. Now, those averages are cool. I'll tell you, though, there are a lot. If you go through his game logs in the playoffs, there are some pretty bad ones. There are some 7-point games. There's some tough ones. And a lot of those were kind of towards the bubble, too. But I'm leaning towards Jimmy Butler just because he's got that killer in him. And we saw it here firsthand. That was our best shot.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Paul George hasn't been great in the postseason, but he's been
right.
Really
but
good.
We need that. We need great. I'm not. We can't pay somebody to give me 22 in the postseason or in the regular season, and then me go into a pivotal game 6 and be like, I wonder what I'm going to get out of Paul George tonight. I know if Jimmy Butler's suiting up, I know it. If he's healthy, he's showing up. I know it. That's what I think.
21 and a half in the postseason, though. I get the game logs. I get it, right? You can go through everybody's damn game logs, but you average what you average. I mean, Paul George is a guy who's averaged 21 and a half in the postseason. I'm not telling you he's come up big, but I can't also say he's been nothing. Has he had bad games?
No, yeah, I know, but
absolutely.
This money that they're investing, if they do that, they're pushing all their chips in on one guy. And that one guy, I can't be worried about that one game. I can't.
And that's the thing with Jimmy. That's where I'm with you.
Yeah, and that's where I need that. I need to know that guy is going to show up. I need that. I just
feel like he's harder to get. That's the problem.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Because you have to match money. You have to figure out the money.
Since the NBA now, we have the money. So now we don't need to match money in the offseason. So in the regular season, yes, because there's a salary cap and guys are making money. Regular season, off season, we can go up to them before we spend any amount of money, kind of around like before the draft and be like, hey, here's 3 first-round picks. That's all you need because we can take on his contract because we have the money. So you don't need to match. So in my opinion, I don't think it's hard at all. So you have the 16th pick. You have it. I'm offering the 16th pick, and if you want another pick on top of it, cool. And then you're spending less money on Jimmy Butler than you are a Paul George. I can bring back Kelly Oubre if I want Kelly Oubre back. Yeah, so this is basically the question we're asking ourselves. Is a team of Maxey, Oubre, Butler, Batum, and Embiid with, per se, a Ricky Council and a backup center off your bench. Is that a championship team?
No.
Well, I think you're out of your mind.
You're too small. You're too small to if Nico Batum is your power forward, you're too small.
Nico Batum ain't gonna be your starting power forward. Let's clear that up. I think Luke's just throwing the name out there.
I'm just throwing an I'm just throwing a name.
Off of that, you're too small.
I got a name for you though, and he's unrestricted. Pascal Siakam.
Well, I don't know if Indy trades for him without knowing he's going to go back, but I'm with you. In a perfect world, I'm with you.
And that's fair. They may have a handshake agreement, but contract-wise, he's unrestricted. I think the entire Paul George discussion is a moot point because I think there's a lot of people that are just like 100% positive that he's going to opt out. He's a West Coast guy, and he's got a $44 million player option. I mean, if I'm in LA, I'm a West Coast guy, and I'm guaranteed $44 million, I might just ride that one out one season.
Yeah, we also don't got Daryl Morey knocking on your door with $200 million because.
No. But so if you listen,
and you wouldn't have to give half of it away.
In the perfect world, if you got Jimmy Butler and Siakam somehow, right? The team's a championship contender.
Well, I don't think contractually, I don't think that's possible. But
probably not. Somebody's got to take less money, right? You'd have to get somebody to take less money, which is
if you pay Jimmy Butler and they do that and they cut Paul Reed, they should have around roughly 18-20 million left. That's where you bring in Kelly Oubre. He's a portion of that. A backup center's a portion of that. And then you got to find a shooter. That's the only question in bringing in Jimmy Butler is there going to be enough shooting around that trio? That's the only question. And that's where Daryl has to pick at 16 a shooter, or he has to spend his money the right way, which I don't trust either of those things. But I also don't trust him with Paul George either. But that's the main question
I think we're on to something because we're on to Jimmy because Jimmy's easier to get now than when we think about it and talk it through, right? Knowing what you can do in the offseason, I thought you had to match it still.
No.
So the fact that you don't have to trade anything like money-wise to them and you just have to absorb away. Because Jimmy Butler walks into this building and you know what you get. You get toughness. Greg can shake it. They all he wants tonight, baby. Because you cannot deny the want to win. You can't deny. And if you do, that's fine. Like deny away. Yep. Right? And he's got
it everywhere he's gone though. He's done this song and dance everywhere he's gone.
What's the song and dance?
Everywhere he's gone, he works his way out because it didn't go his way.
What's his way, Greg? I don't know what they.
I don't know what his way is. We haven't been able to figure out what his way is.
You don't believe it.
But regardless of how my feelings are, rumors are out there right now. And again, rumors are rumors. But Miami has come out and said they won't take 3 first-rounders to go to Philly. They might take it to someone else, but they won't take it.
I'll say this. That guy who reported that is a BS reporter who said he said all summer, last summer, and he said it going into the fall when the season was about to start. Dame to the Heat, write it down, put it in Sharpie. It's a lock. It's everything. Whatever. Well, yeah, he is work. The team is paying him to put crap out there. I'm not even listening to him.
Absolutely
no. He's done this before. I'm not even listening. I guarantee you. I'll put anything on this. If Daryl Morey called up Pat Riley right now and said, "I'll give you 3 first-round picks for Jimmy Butler,"
why would we do that though?
Yeah, we
have all this capital.
Pat
we
Riley.
have all this capital, and then we're going to give 3 first-rounders for Jimmy Butler?
No, they wouldn't
what
do that.
game are you playing, though? What game are we playing? Everybody talk about getting goddamn younger. The time to win's now.
Yeah,
Everybody wants to develop. You want to develop players now? Like, that's what we're going to wait for? Like, we got a young rising star in this league, and we're talking about developing. It's the 16th goddamn pick.
I'm not saying we got to develop everybody, but you can't give up 3 first-rounders for Jimmy Butler.
They
it's the price of business.
And I'm not doing business.
And you want to lose.
That's
it wouldn't
fine.
be. It wouldn't be that much anyway.
I'd rather find another way.
Anyway.
Just like I'm not giving 16 for Alex Caruso. Like, that's crazy talk to me.
Of course not, Greg. That's a guy who put a deal out.
No, I get that, but like he's not the only one. You see that, right? But like, if that's the cost of doing business, no thanks.
So I have a question for you guys. All this talk about Jimmy Butler, and
he could sleep in my bed.
What's that?
He could sleep in my bed. That's how much. Like, you could, hey Jimmy, let's cuddle.
Right, but here's the thing: we're focused so much on Embiid. You know what I'm going to ask you, Tom? Does bringing in Jimmy Butler stunt Tyrese Maxey?
No.
And I'll say something. I think Tyrese Maxey is so good off the ball that I'm not even worried about that. That's what's so great about him is that he can play off the ball because he's so quick in his first step, and then on a quick swing off a double team, he can attack the basket, and he's a very good catch and shoot player. He's done it with Embiid his whole career. So even if he wants to take a back seat, I'm cool with that. And that's why the stuff with Ben Simmons didn't work when he had to take a back seat.
Wait, who wants to take a back seat?
I'm not saying he does, but I'm saying if in a world where Jimmy comes here and at the end of a game, Maxey has to take a back seat, he's such a good off-ball player. I wouldn't even be worried about that.
This is where we're all off the rocker. Then this is the game changer to Greg's youngness and everything else. You're Mr. Rudy. All right, the number one option is Tyrese Maxey. This is what everybody's not understanding. All right, if you look around the league, the number one options are your guards now. It's changed. Now, everything runs through Joel Embiid because that opens stuff up. But you watched it this year. Like, do we have eyeballs? Like, I feel like we don't have eyeballs. The number one leading scorer in the fourth quarter, I believe, for most of the year was Tyrese Maxey. Yep. He's putting up big-time fourth quarter numbers. So that's your number one option because that's when the game matters the most. So we've witnessed it. Joel Embiid led the NBA in first and third quarter scoring, or first and second. It was one of the two, right? But it was definitely first quarter. Either way, early in games, he's dominating teams, right? That's where Joel comes in. Late in games where Maxey takes over. The advantage of having Maxey through so many older guys is they can breathe a little bit. Right? You give them that option to breathe because you do have him, and he's electric.
Well, look at what happened in Game 6 last week. I mean, the Knicks basically said, Maxey lit us up on our home court. We are going to just run Maxey off the ball constantly, let Embiid get his, and dare somebody else to beat us.
And guess what you can't do?
And nobody else can beat him.
And you can't do that if you have a guy on the wing like Jimmy Butler, because all he has is that quick outlet to the wing, and it's good night. Good night. Jimmy Butler's got a clear path to the rim. Like those three guys would work so well off of each other.
That's a little debatable.
I don't know. Jimmy Butler, he took an 8 seed to the final. I mean, everyone wanted to crown Boston last year. Everyone wanted to crown Boston last year.
He's not getting any younger. And
he's not.
He's not. But he's not getting any younger.
If you're going to win with Embiid, it's got to be with an older veteran player who you know is going to show up in a big game, and he fits.
Listen, I think we watch it this postseason. Who wants to be Pomsy? Who wants to get downhill? Who wants to be physical, get into the basket? Who wants those things? Jimmy wants those things. So, I'll settle for him not being as good of a three-point shooter as Paul George, right? Like, I'll accept that because I know when April hits, we got a dog in the house. And that's what you need. Why would New York is the definition of what Philly wants, right? It's toughness, it's physicality.
We loved him. Oh my God, the city loved him.
And they'll love him again.
Yes.
Because you got to match what New York's bringing to the table. You got to match these intensities in the Eastern Conference. And right now, you ain't built for that. You had Jimmy in here and we'll get into other moves, but you just put Jimmy Butler on this roster. You are a tougher basketball team. And that matters. That matters. When you get to a postseason, this guy's last two postseasons, he averaged 26 and 28 a game. In 17 games and 22 games. Think about that. That's a large sample size of dominance. That puts fear in the teams now. Now, you going to double Maxey with the ball? You're going to double Embiid with the ball? Now you got to be careful. That's when you have to be careful now, because it's not one other guy who can beat you. It's two other guys that can beat you, in whatever way you want to look at those two guys.
And you also can't play both sides of the ball. Like, we can't sit up here and say, well, I want a young star, but you also don't want to trade Embiid. There's no young star that a team is willing to trade.
No, Embiid is the young star.
Right.
No, he's not as young as he once was.
Anyone that you bring in with Embiid and Maxey is going to have to be a veteran player.
People are morons.
Yeah.
People are morons. No, people are morons. With all due respect, you're a moron again. Because I say it again. You have the young player. Look at Minnesota for a second. Okay, can we take a freaking step back? God damn it. Nobody thinks. Wiggins is the young star. You're going to tell me Karl-Anthony Towns is young now? You're going to tell me Rudy Gobert is young? You might tell me Mike Conley's young? You want to tell me this? Because that's not the truth. You got one young star and a bunch of other guys that are older. It's not the only team you can say that about is SGA and the Oklahoma City Thunder. And he ain't as young as you think he is because he's been playing forever. But he's still young. But that's all. You're arguably the best player in the league. You're talking about Wiggins and SGA are two of the best players in basketball. Where's all the other teams that are running out a gauntlet of young stars? Where?
You're talking about Ant, not Wiggins.
Did I say Wiggins?
You're saying Wiggins.
Sorry, Anthony.
You're talking about Ant.
Why are we also acting like Embiid's 38? He's 30. Stars have won at the age of 30 before.
Because he's got the knees of a 30.
I get it. But like, we're a nursing home. I don't know about a retirement home. You got one guy above the age of 33. That's it. Where are we getting that idea?
Yeah, I don't get it. You have the most improved player in basketball on your roster right now.
And last year's MVP.
Yeah, and he's going to be 24 years old. So isn't that a young enough star? Thanks for the super chat, Mr. Rudy Poo. Isn't that a young enough star to say, okay, well, we have our young guy? I don't.
Hey, fine. If you want a young guy, draft one at 16. Do it, and it better be a hit. It better.
Don't give Miami the 16th. That's all you do.
Yeah, or if you want to give him 16, I'm not going to complain if that's what they give up. Cool, but then you can give. I'm cool. 2 first-round picks is my limit. I'm giving up 2 first-round picks. That's it.
Well, this is the thing. You have arguably the best player development guy in basketball on your coaching staff, Enrico Hines. And you guys know I've been saying this for a while since the hire of Nick Nurse, that there were some under guys underneath him that you can give a lot of credit to Siakam's development, a lot of credit to OG's development. You can go down the list on some of the work that they've done in Toronto. Scotty Barnes, right? There's a lot of guys that they've done a lot of great work with. Tyrese's only going to get better because of that. And I think Ricky Council's going to get better because of that. And, and whatever you draft will slowly get better because of that. But you do still need win now guys. Through all that of drafting and drafting well, that's all great. But that's not right now.
Yeah, and it's also, why are we acting? Those are 3 guys on our whole team. There's 12 guys on our roster. Ricky Council's young. If you want to bring Kelly Oubre back, he's still in his 20s. DeAnthony Melton, you want to bring him back. He's 25. We still got young guys. I mean, what is everyone talking about?
We're like the oldest team in basketball.
You're talking about 2 guys that are old. That's it. That's literally it. The whole rest of the team is unknown. They can bring in the whole rest of the team.
Embiid isn't even old, right? So you're talking about it'd be Jimmy Butler or Paul George, right?
Yeah,
Jimmy's old. Jimmy's considered old now. Yeah. Paul George is what, 32?
33.
Okay, so he's old-ish, right? But in today's game, it's not that old anymore. So you're not like it's not this retirement home. It's Jimmy, and then Embiid's a little bit older.
Yeah, Paul George is 34.
Okay, so I have to give me Butler again then. Let's double stamp that even more.
Yeah.
Yep. So I don't know where all this oldness is.
Yeah, I don't know where it is either. Not sure.
No, we're going to have more than one young guy, Mr. Rudy.
Because another way the NBA is, it's like if you have a guy on your team, you can go above the salary cap and into the luxury tax to then re-sign him. So then you can re-sign a guy like Kelly Oubre. You can go over the cap to get him. You can re-sign a guy like DeAnthony Melton. You go over the cap to get him. Those are young guys. So then you would then have a deep team on top of it, which is why I'm not going out and paying Paul George. It contractually limits you to such a degree. Then you're really only playing with 3 guys, maybe 4 if you re-sign Kelly Oubre.
And that's why Jimmy's a smarter move here.
Yes, it gives you so much more flexibility, and it can also give you depth.
It's just so funny how we were talking about Dave Dombrowski earlier, building for the long haul, wanting to be able to have sustained success. And we're just like, when it comes to the Sixers, we're like, just give me one. Just one.
Because you know what? We've been trying to build for the long haul for 10 years.
Right. Trust the process.
I mean, we've been building for this forever. And then we get in win now mode and we can't even get past the second round. I mean, it's truly amazing what we've, and this is such a basketball city, Mike. We talked about it for years when we did shows in the past. It really is. And we've been starved. And it's like New York has. New York's a great basketball city too. Much I hate the Knicks. They're a great basketball city. They deserve to have this success. And screw them. But you know, they deserve it to the diehards. I always have for the diehards. We deserve it too, right? We deserve the success of getting to an Eastern Conference Finals with a chance to go to an NBA Finals. We deserve that. But the time is now. The time isn't 5 years from now. I mean, it might still be, right? You know, with Tyrese Maxey's development, but you can build for now. You can win now and still have the future involved.
Especially if you get Jimmy Butler. Especially because then you'll have a ton of cap space in 2 years.
I hope we get
once
Jimmy
he's gone
for Greg. I want Jimmy for Greg so bad.
I want it too.
Why?
I
so
want
you
it
can't
too.
Watch?
So I don't have to watch.
Dude, you know what, Greg? This is where you're a problem, which we already knew. But like, if you don't want to watch because of James Harden disdain, fine. I'm right with you. But you're going to say you're not going to watch because of Jimmy Butler and the toughness he brings? Who are you? Do you pee sitting down?
But it all comes down to the same thing. It all comes down to the same thing, though. We're not getting past the second round. I'm still on Trey to Embiid. I'm still on Trey to Embiid.
I was there for a second, but that's not happening.
I know.
For a second.
Trust me, the last half hour, 45 minutes, I know you're not in Trey to Embiid mode anymore.
Well, because I'm trying to still win. I'm trying to still figure out a way. But don't tell me Jimmy Butler doesn't get you past the second round when he's going to past the second round.
He doesn't get you past the second
You're
round.
an idiot. He's done it with teams that aren't as good.
But he's older now. He just missed the whole playoffs.
He did it with his second best player being Caleb Martin. I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah,
and when he was here,
years ago.
No, it was last year.
It was last year. When he was here, also,
it'll be 2 years ago. Starting next year.
Yeah,
okay, we're doing this. Okay.
when he was here, that was by far Embiid's best playoff run. Not even close.
Yes.
Not even
and
close.
How full circle would it be? We get the guy back that had to witness 75 bounces in the horrors that is in Toronto, and he comes back to the coach who was part of Toronto. I mean, this whole thing's full circle. If we don't get past the second round, then I'm done. I'm just gonna go. Maybe I'll start watching soccer. You know what I mean? You know what? I'll be a soccer.
No, you won't.
I would not.
No, you won't.
I'll be like, this is our year. Next year, like this is our year. Every year, this is it. It's the year Embiid's gonna be healthy in April. But at least Jimmy and Tyrese giving you a fighting chance if Embiid's on one leg. They give you a fighting chance. And you can't tell me that if you put Jimmy on this roster this year that we don't beat the Knicks.
Guess who would love to guard Jalen Brunson too?
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
All right. That's it. And do we beat the Pacers?
Yes.
I think we beat the Pacers regardless, but yeah, we probably do.
Okay. I think
if he's healthy. But again,
I think the only team in the East that we wouldn't have beat was the Knicks. I actually feel like they would have beat Boston.
Maybe. I mean, yeah. And the person who would love that moment, watching Jalen Brunson drop 40 3 straight nights going into a game 6, you know who'd love to guard him and take on the challenge? Jimmy Butler. That's the guy I want on my team. That's the guy I want when an organization says, I want to put all my chips on the table. That's the kind of guy I want. That kind of character guy.
Mr. Rudy, we can be delusional with Embiid, and I'll tell you this. I'm not delusional with him. I said I would deal him. I said I'll get a king's ransom. But I also said you have a blank canvas too. So I need to hear both. I need to hear both sides, right? What would I get? What would be my king's ransom? Okay, what can I put around to try to win, right? And that's what great GMs do. Your phone's on. You're always listening. Doesn't mean you pull a trigger. But we're not delusional with Embiid because the thing, again, that you're missing and everybody's missing is the damn growth of Tyrese Maxey. How do we keep missing that? Like, we're not even talking about Embiid. Start with Maxey and then talk about Embiid. Gosh
also
darn it.
we're
You
also
haven't- You're first off, look, you're probably better in the second round with just Maxey and Butler, and you build around all that.
yeah.
So you had Embiid, you're not as good.
We can also talk about what we want to do all day long, but at the end of the day, like I think it's fair to say they're not going to trade Embiid, so we might as well talk in the world of realism and who we might bring in here to pair with those two guys.
If you're all in for Jimmy Butler, hit the like, subscribe,
Hell yeah.
follow, join the conversation. Let us know how you're feeling. But I mean, what else can we do? I do like the Gary Trent. I'm a Gary Trent cat. He's a Nick Nurse. Been around Nick Nurse too in this staff. So
blow it
sure.
up. Trade
Not
everybody
sure.
but Tyrese.
Not sure stud wing goes with Gary Trent, but I do like the name. I do like what he brings.
Well, he could be like a minimum guy. He had a very disappointing year on a bad team. He could look for a contract.
Yeah, he's that shooter you bring off the bench.
Yeah,
go to bed. All right, I'm not doing this tonight with you. Go to bed. He's the biggest perennial loser. Give me Kobe White, and we're talking. What else can we do?
If
there ain't nothing else.
If those two guys,
Luke, you initially said we'll go get 4 role players. Well, I don't, right? And I think you talked yourself out of that.
Well, I also didn't know Jimmy Butler was going to be available. I didn't know that. I said I'd rather get the 4 role players over Paul George. I'll still stand over that. But I don't want the 4 role players over Jimmy Butler. Definitely not. I didn't know he would be available. But I guess to Don's question earlier, what else we would do if those two guys aren't available, I guess it would have to be to get 4 role players until another star wants out, which is also very possible.
I run Toronto South. That's how I roll. I go Toronto South. Give me OG. Give me Siakam.
Those guys aren't leaving.
I know, but you want to just play.
Siakam, I still think for the right price you can get Siakam, regardless of what he.
They have a falling out with Nick Nurse, like people are saying.
No,
like,
but the other part is the way that it works now is that they're gonna go back because those teams can offer them more money than us. They have leverage. They're gonna take the money. So
that's only if they're offering max. They can't.
They'll
OG ain't getting max. OG's definitely not getting max. You want to tell me Siakam is fine, but OG Anunoby is not.
Well, yeah, but I don't think we'll give OG the max either. So
no, but we can pay him more.
I don't know about all that.
I don't know about nothing I'm saying, but I'm just throwing things out there. Late at night, you know what I mean? We're just talking. We're just sitting around, a couple guys just shooting the shit about how did we get past the second round. We're not talking about winning the whole thing. That's the crazy thing. Like, we're not even getting there yet. We're just like, how do we get out of this second round? Imagine that conversation for a decade, and even longer than that, by the way. But for a like, how do you get past the second round?
Yeah,
like, it's like a maze. Everybody said Mr. Rudy Poo. Where is that fact? I'm not saying you're wrong. He said Gary Trent, Pascal, and OG all had issues with Nick Nurse.
Yeah, I don't know about that either.
Where's this? I mean, he might have benched Gary Trent, but that's not a shock.
I mean, the new coach didn't do any favors for him either. He didn't have a great year.
James Jackson says, I generally hate talking about this team. Just no happiness.
He's so right.
From April and May.
He is absolutely 100% correct. Like I'm sitting here looking at the clock going, do we really have to keep talking about this?
Yeah, no, we don't.
Because it is. It's painful. It's legitimately painful to talk about the Sixers.
Jimmy made me go 6 to midnight, though. Like Jimmy gets you like, hey, wait, Tom, would you take one of those pills? You know what I mean? You probably getting rock solid at 12 o'clock.
Yep.
Over Jimmy, right? Because he just brings, and we'll leave it here, but he really brings some accountability, toughness, and the want to win, which Greg doesn't see, but everybody else sees it. So.
Yeah, he brings a lot of wins.
Listen, the one thing that I could hope for is that he comes back here with a chip on his shoulder. He throws out the whole "you chose Tobias Harris over me" line again, and then basically shows everybody why it was the wrong decision.
And he's that kind of guy too. Like, I'm not making assumptions about somebody if I'm saying that either, because he's that kind of guy.
Don. Hey,
I mean, Mr. Rudy Poo's an insider now. Like, nobody liked Nick Nurse. That Nick Nurse was hated in Toronto. Okay.
Today's the anniversary of the most infamous press conference in Philadelphia history, right?
We talking about practice?
Talking about practice.
Oh.
And here we are talking about the Sixers.
And not practice.
And still don't have a ring in 20-some odd
I mean,
years.
Jimmy Butler's also won more than us ever since he's left us, too. Let's not forget that either. We haven't won anything, and he's won more than us.
That's commonplace.
Yeah.
Like when you've been, when you're around long enough.
I'm starting to learn now, especially with this team.
It's definitely commonplace. All right, boys. Anything else on the way out?
Crazy ending to that Boston Florida game in hockey. Pretty good. Oh, just like I think each team ended up with like 5 or 6 skaters each because they were just game was like 6-1. They were just throwing dudes out at the end of the game. Like any scrum is like, all right, game misconducts. Just everyone go. We're just trying to get this game over with.
It's so funny that you brought
nuts.
that up though, because I had a couple months ago, one of my nephews was like, Uncle Mike, why do you like hockey? And I sent him a link to the YouTube video of the Flyers and Senators. Down goes Spezza. Down goes Spezza. Maybe the greatest hockey brawl I've ever seen. That's why I like hockey.
That's awesome. Yeah, hockey.
Playoff hockey is sensational. Sensational. All right, boys. Great show. As always, we thank everybody in the chat for joining us tonight. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, follow on your way out. It's been HUD Wednesday night. That's Mike Mataraki, Luke Brown, Greg Moakovic, Anti-Jimmy Butler, Tom Arnone, hard as a rock. I'm gonna go watch some playoff Jimmy highlights and try to clear this one out tonight. But we all in for Jimmy. Here we are again. All right, boys. Great show. It is fun. As much as it sucks, though, it is sort of fun with the blank canvas and being able to be like, we haven't had that before. So
no, for sure.
And we do have a great rising star. So there is still some excitement through all the misery. So that's how we'll hold out hope. But we'll see you everybody next week. Phil, stay hot. So we'll have a great conversation next week too. We out.